Hey guys, welcome to Chief Concerns, the first episode of 2021. So hoping big things this year. We're with our host, former tight end Jason Dunn and former cornerback Eric Warfield. Today we're breaking down the AFC playoff bracket and some early offseason rumors. And joining us today to help us discuss all that is former Maryland Terp and longtime Chiefs defensive end Eric Hicks. Eric, thanks for coming on, man. I'm honored to have you on.
Oh, thank you for having me. Got my two buddies here. Look forward to talking to them and get down to some Chiefs football.
Yeah, that's my ride or die right there. Every time we went out to start a game, I had to get a little headbutt from me Hicks.
Yeah, play a long time, 9 years together.
Yes, sir.
That's a long time, especially in that climate.
Man.
Hey, Jason, did you ever go against Eric? Did you guys have some good battles during practice?
Oh yeah, man. Hicks was just one of those, man. The hard hats that you had to bring it every time. It never. I don't care if we was just going. It was walkthroughs. You always know Hicks was coming off the ball.
His motor ran a little different.
Yeah. It never mattered. It never mattered. You know what? One thing.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say. I said the one thing that me and Billy Baby used to always talk about was like out there on the field. Like if you have like a little injury, I don't care what it was, a little nick, and you would go down. And it was almost like like a wrestling time. You know, when the guy get hurt, you just be laying there. Like,
yeah.
What's going on?
It was like a soccer match.
Yeah. but you know, everybody huddle around you, make sure you're okay, and all of a sudden you just pop up and take off running. I used to love it. You just be right on time with it all the time, man. I used to love it, man. Seriously.
Tony G used to kill me with that all the time. I'll tell you guys one thing about Jason though, and Jason already knows this, of course. Jason's a large individual, okay, and he has the world's A, largest hands, and B, strongest hands. So if Jason got his hands on you, he'll tell you the play is over. There's no more play. You are neutralized.
Yeah.
So by the time I would get to, after going through training camp and OTAs and all that, going against JD all the time, going into a game, that game was easy. I don't care who was trying to block me on any of the 31 other teams. After going against JD, it was much easier than it was in practice.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I learned a long time ago, man, when I first got into my rookie year from Ed West. Called him the toolbox. Ed West played for 13 years, was a tight end, probably about 6'2", 6'3", maybe 240, 250. And Ed said, man, JD, man, just hold him to death. He just, man, get these meat hooks on him. Just get the meat hooks and just try to keep him in close. And I never got that. I just like, look, if I just keep him in close and as tight as I can, you know, I couldn't let y'all guys with the longest arm extend on me, man. I couldn't let that happen, you know.
Oh, yeah, you got real short arms.
Yeah.
And Eric and I were talking before you guys came on about Jared Allen. He's one of the Hall of Fame finalists this year. It's good stuff for one of your former teammates.
I'm happy for him, man. He's had a tremendous career. He came in off the bat, you know, and did an excellent job for the short time that I had playing with him. You know, good. You know, as I was explaining to Eric earlier, I've done I won't say a good job, but I try to keep in touch with a lot of the guys that we played with, and Jared is one of those guys too. So I'm just happy that he's built the career that he's built, and he's got his mentions and on his way into the Hall of Fame. So hats off to him.
Yeah, I can comment on Jared. Jared came in as a rookie in 2004, so me and E would have been about 7 years in the league at that point. And Jared was very immature, just like we all were at that age when you get thrust with money. And now Jared took it to a little bit of the extreme sometimes. And I do remember, I remember driving him vividly to some of his appointments that he had to go through to get some of the entanglements done that he was associated with. And to see where he was back then to where he is today, a finalist for the NFL Hall of Fame from a 1AA school. He's got a beautiful family, and it looks like he really got the world by the you-know-what. So I'm proud of him.
Yeah, and he was always a fun player to watch. I loved his sack celebration. That's something that I used to mimic during recess in elementary school. So it's a cool thing to see him get to that point right now. Jason, do you have any stories about Jared?
Oh, of course, man. I mean, and just kind of piggybacking off those guys, him coming in, man, and it matured a lot. And the thing he's doing now, as far as kind of helping veterans out and building homes. I mean, he's come a long way. I mean, all of us have really, but just to see his progression, from where he was, and I remember him used to come with the car with the great big old steel horns on the front of it. Used to wear the old like polyester suits. I mean, he's just an overall just a funny guy. That's just who he is. And when you see guys like that, you just have to cheer for him. And just like I said, battles with Eric. He was the same one, just kind of a guy that would always bring, hard work to practice every single day. And it was just, it was a pleasure, just seeing him develop. And man, I've just been so proud of him to his development, where he's at right now, and being able to be a finalist in the Hall of Fame. So, man, he's got a stellar career. So he's earned it. There's no doubt about it. So,
we had some, I'm not cutting you off, JD, but we had some complicated defensive schemes with Greg Robinson, and one in particular which I really hated. If I was backside with a receiver, backside of the trips, single receiver, it was kind of a man zone defense. So I would have to take that receiver man to man by myself, no help at all. My only help was when I was to that backside, it was usually to the side of Jared. Jared was my help. Jared had to drop back in coverage. Now you gotta understand, like, our defensive ends was our biggest help when it came to pressure on the quarterback. So I got Hicks and I got Jared. I need them for help trying to get the quarterback. Well, shit, I got one of the guys that's dropping in the coverage and one of them just going by himself. So I used to hate that defense, but he was athletic enough and he would drop back at times, but it really never helped us. So, so we didn't run that defense that much. But man, you talk about a scheme that I used to hate. I used to sit there like, why the hell we got Jared dropping back in the zone coverage and me do in the off coverage, just do one-on-one? Like that make a whole lot of sense. So, but
explain it, because that's a crazy concept in itself. I mean, just to even think that they have a defensive end that has his hand in the dirt, to drop back in coverage from single receiver. But I guess you got single receiver back there, right, to your side.
Yeah.
So I guess they're looking for, the only way I'm thinking about it right now is what, a slant? He's
got all underneath inside routes. He's going to cover. Jared is supposed to be all underneath inside routes. Right. But he's a defensive end. We see in some defensive schemes nowadays. I think Pittsburgh was the one team that was doing it quite a bit with Harrison. You got James Harrison out there dropping into a deep zone. Like, he's one of your best rush guys. Why are you doing this? There's times I see a defensive tackle drop back into coverage. And it's basically to, that's kind of like a lurking defense or a steal defense, to where you covering that middle up with the tackle.
Right.
The quarterback doesn't expect it. But yet again, how many defensive tackles are going to catch the ball that's, thrown right at them from a quarterback? So, you have some that, I'm not knocking you guys, but some of you guys are talented to do so. But really thinking about it, a lot of them aren't. So,
well, I played 10 years, so you figure maybe 7,000 plays in the game over that span. Okay, I estimate in my career that I dropped into coverage 10% of that. So a good 700 plays during the game I dropped in coverage with the fire zones, and usually it was, if there was a single receiver out there, we'd try to drop 8 to 10 yards and get into the flat to make that throw harder over there on the sideline. Or if it was two receivers, we would drop 12 to 15 into the hook to make that deep in route a lot harder of a throw. That wasn't fun, because you also had to play the run too while working on the pass. And it's different. It changes your mentality. Then all of a sudden they're running a power play at you with, the guard and the fullback, and I got to explain to everybody, a power play is when nobody knows that anymore. But yeah, it is. It gets tricky at times. The key is watching film. I watched a lot of film, which helped out. And, just pay attention to tendencies. I mean, we play these teams 2 times a year for 10 years. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So you get to know some tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this week, the Jared Allen news is something that, some relevant Chief news. There wasn't that much since, we don't play this week. So we get the bye week. But one of the big things coming out of Kansas City was Offensive Coordinator Eric Bieniemy, who's been approached by 5 of the 6 teams who have head coaching vacancies. The only team being the Houston Texans that did not reach out to him, which they have problems of their own over there with Deshaun Watson. Watt's out now, apparently. But where do you guys think he's going to go, and what do you kind of think would be the best landing spot for Coach Bieniemy, and what kind of impact will that have on the Chiefs, Andy Reid and Mahomes, of his departure? Jason, you want to go first?
Woo, man. I tell you what, I wouldn't want to go and let me start that first. I probably wanted to take over the Jets. Jets just seem like just a dumpster fire to me. I mean, it has just they've been trying to climb out of that hole for so long, and it doesn't matter if they got like a couple of first round picks, and I thought the quarterback was going to be pretty good. He just hadn't been panning out like he should, and I don't think it would be fair for him to take over a team like that. With his so much coming up. My other team that I like Jacksonville, and here's why. I think if you get the first pick, right, and Trevor Lawrence might be the one on the table for them to get, right, if I'm not mistaken. So you get you a franchise quarterback, and you still got a decent running game. You got some good receivers on the outside. You got a decent defense. I think, plus you in the elements that will put you where you can necessarily build a team around a young team and do some things with. So I kind of like that. Being down in Jacksonville is probably my number one. But my second would be probably with the Chargers. So being in their own division, of course, being out there in L.A., you got, man, a great quarterback. Some great wide receivers, a decent defense, plus you in the limelight out there in LA too. But if you starting out, you want to be successful. I mean, I like Herbert as a quarterback, but that would be because you have 2 quarterbacks. That's great, right? Herbert or you get Lawrence. So that would be the choice and pick for me. But if I had to choose one at the very end, LA had to be it, right? I mean, you can't just pass up California at that point.
Yeah, I like the Chargers as a pick too. Also the Falcons. That'd be a good pick. You got Julio, and you got Ridley still out there with Matt Ryan, not knowing exactly how he's going to plan out in the season. But he's a phenomenal offensive coordinator. He's done a great job with Coach Reid and Mahomes and Patrick. So I think he's a good fit wherever he goes. I myself would just hate to see him leave our franchise. Because it could change up so many of the dynamics of what we do. And I know Andy Reid's a great coach, but still, him and Bieniemy together create an offense that's way more difficult when you throw in Patrick Mahomes and his playmaking ability. So I just hate to see him go. But, it's always good to see, especially a black coach, of which we have such a shortage of, take over the helms of a team and to show what they're worth, and I think he deserves it. So in that sense, I'm happy to see him being offered so many opportunities. I think any team is a good fit for him for what he brings, especially playbook wise. It's just a matter of who he has at the quarterback position, and if they can do. I don't see too many players doing half of what Patrick Mahomes is capable of doing. So that's going to be his only downfall. Is he can go out with the greatest playbook. He just has to have these players to go out and execute. So if you can't have these players execute, then he's going to be just another one of those black coaches that's had a short term at a team to say, he wasn't what we thought he was going to be, and we got to get rid of another one. So I just hope he's successful wherever he goes.
Well, the one thing I can kind of say about it is going back on what Jason said. There's a reason why certain organizations are the way they are. The Jets is because of ownership. The Johnson family is not really the best owner in the world. I was there for 1 year. It was the most miserable year I've ever had playing football in my life. And I also was with the Lions for a cup of coffee, and it's also leadership too. And going on and firing coaches like Jim Caldwell, who were winning coaches, to get another guy in there just because they felt they were in front of where they needed to be. So that's two things on that. Now, I will say with the Atlanta thing with EB, that really might be a good fit right now. As we can see, the state of Georgia and the urban counties in Georgia are starting to turn more ethnic, starting to get more minorities in those. You saw it in the election. Atlanta's probably the new capital of the South now. It's in vogue. It's in vogue to vote, things like that. A black coach might go a long way in identifying with the community.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think the one thing I think with Jason, you were talking about Jacksonville. I've heard the whole Jacksonville thing. I think for me with Trevor Lawrence, I mean, and being number one pick is not a sure thing. I know everyone is huge fans of Trevor Lawrence. I think he's all right. I'm not buying the hype, just but I think Justin Herbert, and plus he used to Coach Bieniemy used to play for for the Chargers, that organization. So I think that's also another thing there, that connection that he has on top of being LA. And I think the one thing, which is funny, I was talking to a Chargers fan this week, and they said they didn't want the Chargers to get Bieniemy because they didn't want the Chiefs to get the compensation picks for that. They said they didn't want to help out a division rival.
Oh, that is right. You once you hire a black coach, you do get some sort of compensation pick.
Yeah. So that's also another cool thing the NFL is doing this year to kind of promote that. I think that'd be awesome for Coach Bieniemy. But Eric, you mentioned that I guess being without Coach Bieniemy, I've seen the arguments that people say that Andy Reid finds an offensive coordinator. He went from Doug Peterson to Matt Nagy to Eric Bieniemy. We'll find the next Coach Bieniemy or the next offensive coordinator. What do you think? Why do you think Bieniemy kind of stands out differently than Coach Nagy or Coach Peterson?
I don't know. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, you go ahead, Ewood.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You got it.
I think that he identifies with the players, and you hate to keep mentioning this, but being a minority team is predominantly minorities. That's one thing. But I also think he's able to teach football in a way that makes sense, maybe where he can translate what some of Coach Reid is trying to say to some players who might not get it, or he's able to present the information a little bit better so everybody's on the same page. I think people respect that. They know that people have their back, especially the people in power, their coaches.
Yeah, and that translation goes a long way, because I don't think that anything that we've seen offensively, I've never seen the plays that we run offensively with any team in the NFL. You're shuffling passes to a fullback, underarm passes. And I think it's more so of EB being able to relate to the type of player that we have at quarterback. And depending on where he goes, can he find that relationship with whomever he has at quarterback to run those kind of plays. And yes, Andy Reid has been sort of this quarterback whisperer. He's done well with quarterbacks throughout his time as a head coach. But never anything like this with what Patrick Mahomes brings. And I think with him and Eric Bieniemy together, they bring out more of what every talent that Patrick may have hidden. Because even at Texas Tech, I didn't see him making the plays that he's doing now. So it's more so him relating to the guys and bringing the most out of them. I feel confident he'll do well with any offense that he goes to. Now, as an overall team talent, will that team be successful? I don't know that.
JD?
Yeah, I tell you what, I know EB pretty decent, man. He came to Philly when I was up there, and I was the one kind of was taking him around the city, and so EB's really real good friends with a guy that was in front of me when I got to Philly, and Jimmy Johnson, tight end, and so I've had a chance to know EB, and I know EB, he gets on the guys. You know, he doesn't play around with them, and that's what guys kind of need. Sometimes, you know, when you have where Nagy and Doug were quarterbacks, you know, it's a different kind of feel like in the locker room. But sometimes, and these guys know, quarterbacks in the locker room, like you're above everybody else in a sense. You don't really say a whole lot in the locker room, just kind of go around with your head up, and that you're supposed to have like this prestige about you. But kind of being a running back, you're kind of that guy that kind of walks through like every part of the offense and defense, the whole locker room. So you kind of know everybody. And so EB, he's just got the air about him, and he'll get on his guys. And so I know if he goes anywhere he goes, he's going to be able to relate to the guys, and the guys can relate to him. Because he's going to come straight up. He's going to come correct with everything he's saying to guys. Like Eric said, Hicks said, he's going to be able to communicate with them and say it in a simple form that everybody gets and understands. Like, yeah, you know what? We played this before. We know that you played. You've been on in the trenches. We know, you know, that we can feel the passion in your thought and in your speech. But you know what, Andy, I think it doesn't matter who he brings in, the offensive coordinator, man. I think sometimes it's the personnel and the weapons you got around you. Andy does a good job of hiring former football players. All the guys you see it as coordinators always been former football players. And so he did it when he was in Philly. He came here to Kansas City, did the same thing. So he'll probably find another guy that knows the mode, knows the offense, knows the fits. Look, and all these guys sits in meetings. And so he already talks about his mindset about what he wants to run on these different plays. So sometimes it's always a question like, okay, is all of this EB or some of this Andy? So I think it's a little bit of both, right? So Andy will just bring his mind, his thought process to the next guy that's coming in. He was like, hey, why don't you run this? Why don't you, think about running this? And we'll talk about this for the week. But that, I mean, it's just part of like, how the dynamics of, coaching in the NFL.
Yeah. And I read a couple months ago that Andy said that he's deferred more to Coach Bieniemy more than he has in past offensive coordinators when calling plays. Because everyone always says, "Oh, that's Andy. It's not the OC." I mean, he's been with the guy for 3 years now. Just as the OC alone, and he's saying that he's deferred to him more for calling plays than he ever has before. So obviously, a lot of what we're seeing is Coach Bieniemy. So we can't poo-poo what he's done with the team. And I think to your point, Jason, the rumor is if Coach Bieniemy goes, which is looking likely, that they would just promote Mike Kafka, who was a backup quarterback for the Eagles back in the day, who's the current QB's coach, and he'd end up being the next OC. But there's also a rumor out there that Coach Nagy could be fired if the Bears have an early exit, and then he would come back, just to kind of the recycling of Coach Reid's coordinators.
I don't see Chicago getting rid of Nagy. I just don't see it right now. I just don't, So that's my opinion on it. I don't.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to fire a coach after making the playoffs, but I mean we've seen it before with teams, which is nuts. The Chicago situations, that's more the whole Trubisky experiment. Going to who took over this year for them? It was Trubisky, then it went to somebody else, then it went back to Trubisky.
Nick Foles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they have their own situation with the whole Trubisky situation. So that's the thing there. Also, Nick Foles, another Andy guy.
Nick Foles should go in he already's got the mask for the COVID, but he should get a gun because he has robbed the NFL blind. Now, I'm not hating on him, but I understand.
I don't think anyone's robbed the NFL more than Brock Osweiler when he got that big contract from Houston, and then the next year he was traded to Cleveland, and then he was out after that.
Oh man, I don't even understand that whole history with him. I just don't even understand it, man. I just don't. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, the guy who was the quarterback that played at Missouri, Chase
Daniel.
Yeah, he got a big contract, and I don't think he's got the stats to even say he deserves it.
Yeah,
no, he's been making millions of dollars for a lot of years.
Yeah, I'm talking about seven plus.
Yeah,
right.
Quiet millions, like real quiet, like sneaking in.
Yeah,
like millions.
So we're gonna go to the next topic before we break down the matchups for this week. I kind of want to know if you guys, what kind of wild card weekend memories do you guys have that kind of stand out when you think of wild card weekend? Do you guys have any memories that kind of jump out to you?
None for me. I mean,
Well, that time we backed into the playoffs in 2006, and then everybody had to lose. Like 6 teams had to lose, and then we ended up going to play Indianapolis. They went on to win the Super Bowl.
JD?
Yeah. I'm sure nothing really comes to mind. I mean, it's always just seemed like Indianapolis was always, our downfall. Just never failed. We always had to see them jokers and see that long-headed joker run in with his little trot in the game. Yeah, I used to always say, see that joker come in. Hated seeing that joker. So. But yeah, man, wild cards, man. Tough road.
Obviously, that was a weekend that you guys did not want to play on. You guys obviously want to make the playoffs, but that was a weekend you kind of just wanted to, get that by, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a hard look. That's a hard hill to climb. It really is. That's why you really don't see a lot of teams do it. Win it from that wild card weekend or just all the way to the Super Bowl. It's just a hard road to go up. Because like you said, it was hard to just get in the game. You wishing and hoping that everything works in his favor before you just get in. You finally get in, you're like, okay, well, the job ain't done. Now we really got a hard road ahead from this point. So.
And Eric, you mentioned that with 2006 Colts. I just saw today Antoine Bethea, the safety. He just retired. He was on that 06 Colts team. He just retired today officially from the NFL. 14-year career. Wow. I thought it was funny. 06 to 2021. So.
Yeah, it was Bethea, and the other safety was Bob Sanders.
Bob Sanders.
Yeah, Bob.
Yeah.
Bob Sanders from Erie, Pennsylvania. So that's how I know Bob.
Yeah. All right.
Great career. He had a great career.
Yeah, he was a hard-hitting safety to me. Yeah, he was. I guess I had a friend who was a Colt fan who was always hot and cold with him. As a lot of fans are hot and cold with players, but he always said, when he played, he was the best safety in the game. But I think because he would lay the wood so much, and I guess he got a lot of concussions, a lot of injuries from I guess going out there and throwing the hard hits out there. That was just one thing that as a Colts fan they would always tell me.
He wasn't no bigger than a minute either, man. He wasn't no bigger than a minute, and he had a real short neck. Every time you see him out there, man, it looked like just he had no neck, just the whole body just turned when he was.
That's like Jason Belzer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. JB.
All right. So as we look to break down the playoffs this weekend, our first matchup this week is the 7th seed Indianapolis Colts and the 2 seed Buffalo Bills. Buffalo's a 7-point favorite going into that game in Buffalo. What are your guys' thoughts on that matchup, and what is the best outcome for the Chiefs in that matchup? What's the team you guys don't want to play out of these two?
I mean, we played the Colts. We played the Bills, and I hate to say that we have their number just because we beat them in season without using Patrick the way we have used Patrick throughout the season. It was basically our running game that beat them that game. But the Bills have obviously gotten better. They got a good defense, and they have I think their offense is playing tremendous. So I know I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that it was either be the Browns or the Colts that we wouldn't want to face. But I mean, just looking at them now and what they're doing to a lot of these teams to end their season with, the Bills are on the roll. They both sides of the field, they're looking good. So hopefully, the Colts can go in and weaken them before they get to us. So
I think one of the things that you have to think about is don't count Phillip Rivers out in this game. Phillip Rivers has played a lot of football, talked a lot of trash, but he's also backed it up now. And Indianapolis might be bringing a buzzsaw into Buffalo. Now, I know it's probably going to be 3 degrees out, and the Bills Mafia is going to be crazy, whatever fans they let in the stands and all that. But the atmosphere outside will be electric. But don't count Phillip Rivers out. That's one thing I got to say. That he's an all-time great.
I tell you what, man. I'm Phillip Rivers to me, man, is I'm at the cat out on this one. To be honest with you, to me, it just seems like he always lays an egg. It really does, and I don't know what it is about him, man, but he always seems to get incensed at his players at certain times, and it's always him, that the one that's messing up. And plus, too, man, I always look at indoor teams to outdoor teams, right? And so if you have a team that's practicing indoors and you get out there to elements, it's a whole different beast, a whole different animal. And so, man, you're talking about guys that want to catch the football. You don't want to get hit. You don't want to hit anybody. But I think as far as like what you see with the Bills, better defense, great two good receivers, good quarterback. And I don't think Indy has enough firepower offensively to do it. I mean, the running backs are kind of up and down. They kind of like run back by committee. Receivers are, somewhat okay, but I'm just never really sold on Indianapolis. So by saying that, Bills coming in hot ticket, that's the ones you really don't want to see. But to be honest with you, it don't even matter. It truly doesn't even matter, man. I think, the Chiefs are going to be ready either way it goes. I mean, seriously. I think it's another year for them. And I think the guys are ready. I mean, getting that needed rest this past week, right? So I know we debated that all last week about them having resting the guys. Guys got the rest. Now it's come out here and show it. Now I think the guys are ready. Getting that rest, like I said, is just going to, power on through to the Super Bowl.
Any predictions for this game? Do you guys want to make the point predictions? Eric?
I mean, I don't have a prediction on the score-wise. I think that Buffalo pulls it off, though. If you want me to pick a score, I'll go 27-20.
Okay. All right. So you're taking the spread. Eric?
I think Indy goes in there and does the upset.
Wow.
21-20.
All right.
Get a lot of field goals on one team.
Did he?
I'm gonna go 24-14. It's not gonna be a large scoring game. Like I said, I see Phillip Rivers and them just kind of tanking it a little bit, not really getting out there on the board. I think Buffalo's they're gonna come out and play, and beat them handily. I really do. So, yeah, 24-14.
Yeah, I think at the end of the year, Indianapolis started to play more of a smash mouth ball where they did kind of hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor finished the year with the last 5 or 6 games with 750 yards.
Oh, he's a hell of a running back.
He's good.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that I'd say Buffalo really doesn't have much of a strong. We always talk about our running game kind of lacking. Between Singletary and Zach Moss, they really haven't found their niche this year as far as who's the guy in that backfield. And neither one has kind of pushed through as the lead back on that offense. So that's still something they're figuring out as well as we are figuring that as also. All right. So the next, and if that, based on what Eric said there, if Colts do win, that'd be a team we play since we play the lowest seed possible after this weekend. So that the Colts would be our team based on that if they were to pull off the upset. Okay, so the next matchup is the 4th seeded Tennessee Titans taking on the 5th seed Baltimore Ravens. This is a rematch to last year's divisional round upset when the Titans beat the Ravens in the dominating fashion that they did. What are your thoughts? Ravens are playing in Tennessee, but they are the 3-point favorite according to Vegas.
Yeah, I got the Ravens winning too. I just think it's that time that Jackson gets over the hump. When he tends to hold on to the ball too long and sit in the pocket, that's where the mistakes come. But if he's committed to the play, whether it's a pass or whether it's a drop back and getting out of the pocket, he does tremendous things to that offense. And so it just comes down to them a matter of who wants to be the first to tackle Henry and to get that train before it goes downhill. And then that's basically what's motored Tennessee to where they are right now is Derrick Henry carrying them. So of those two, I see Lamar Jackson pulling it out.
Eric?
I think when you look at it, the Baltimore's defense, that defense travels this time of year. They get on the plane. Defense will travel and can carry your football team. Now they're also going against the NFL's leading rusher over 2,000 yards this year. So something's got to give.
Yeah.
One of them has to give somewhere else. And I think it's going to be, you want to try to avoid, if you're Baltimore, one of those classic Derrick Henry split zone cutback runs that he does for 50-some yards, and start getting a whole bunch of yards racked up on you. Then you start to go crazy, and people talk about, well, we're better than this, and what are you doing wrong, and do your job, and all that, starting infighting and everything. I think that'd be key if Henry could break some runs and put some doubt in that Baltimore defense.
Yeah, Henry back here, man, is a dangerous man. No doubt about it. But, I'm looking at, Tannehill, is he going to be able to do it if he needs to? And that's the thing. If you stop Derrick Henry, I mean, the team goes as he goes. And Lamar, what they do, and what I see on Tennessee's defense, they don't really do well against tight ends either. So Andrews does a great job for Lamar. And just having an element of a quarterback that can run the football is dangerous. You just can't cover the entire field. And plus, you got some good, speedy receivers, guys who may not necessarily be world beaters, but you got the fast guy out there. You got Snead who catches the football, possession receiver. Plus, his running backs are doing a lot more better job too. And so, I think Lamar, he's been itching to get this game right here back on the schedule. And so this might be his one that he's like, look, I got to get this revenge, from last year. And I think they beat him this week, no doubt about it.
Scores from everybody?
27-24, Baltimore.
I say 24-21, Tennessee.
Ooh. JD?
I go 24-21 Baltimore. So I like the 24-20 score, but I think Baltimore pulls it out.
We got the old combative Hicks down. They want to go against the grain and everything.
Hey, man, I was an undrafted free agent.
Oh, that's right.
I was right there with you.
I know. You were a sneeze away.
Yeah. Damn near Mr. Irrelevant.
Y'all get drafted the same year? Y'all came
Yeah, we came same year.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
And Victor Riley.
Yeah, big pudding.
Big pudding. Oh, pudding.
Oh, man.
Oh man, you say some names now. What's what grade 2? Oh man.
Now it was me.
Carlton Gray.
No, he wasn't with us. We brought Carlton over from Indy.
Okay.
So it was me, E. Hicks, Victor Riley, Robert Williams, Derek Ransom, Greg Favors. Dang, who else we have, E?
I don't remember who the second round pick was that year.
Ernest Blackwell,
running back.
Yep.
Ernest Blackwell. I don't remember.
Committed suicide from Missouri.
Really?
Yeah.
Well.
He did what?
He committed suicide.
Oh, Jesus.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You say we went to Mizzou?
Yeah, so he's a big old dude, big running back from Missouri. And like our first year in training camp, I want to say midway through training camp, Ernest quit, gave up, quit football. And I don't know what happened to him after that, but then I was sitting here watching one of our old games when I was in Nebraska to the game where we had the kick and the guy recovered it for the win for us at Nebraska against Missouri. Ernest was on that team. I'm like, damn, Ernest was in the same draft class with us. So I was interested. I Googled him and I saw that he had committed suicide.
Wow. God bless him. Jeez.
JD, what year did you get there? 99 with us?
Nah, yeah, I got there 2000 with you all. So
2000. Okay.
Yeah, I remember Gunther because Gun brought me in.
Yeah.
So all Gun kept telling me was he said, Jason, man, you made Leslie O'Neal quit. I just remember you making him quit when we played Philly. He said, man, he actually quit that game. He said, man, I had to bring you in. I just had to bring you in. I was like, man, Gun was my guy, man. I tell you what, Gun, he was my guy. I know
he
a lot of
my
people,
guy too.
Yeah. Man, he didn't leave nothing back, man. But he was, to me, he was straight up and down, man. You know what I'm saying? Like 6 o'clock. He really was. So another guy, man, that we lost. You know, God bless Gun, man, because did he have cancer? Was it something like that? What it was? I think it was cancer, wasn't it?
I didn't get the diagnosis.
I think that's what it was. I think it was, cancer. Because I had talked to him. Matter of fact, he had sent me something over on LinkedIn. And we were kind of going back and forth, kind of talking to him, man. But I'm forever grateful for being in Kansas City because of Gunther Cunningham, the old German. You know, he always tell that story, you know, being a German, the only German in the black neighborhood. But
Like you grew up in Compton.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yes, sir.
And I remember during the Hard Knocks, when he was talking to Jared Allen about Family Fun Night, or he was hating on that, how he hated that part of the of training camp. All right, so the last matchup of this weekend for the AFC playoff bracket was the third-seeded Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the sixth-seeded Cleveland Browns. What are your thoughts on that game? Steelers are a 6-point favorite. Cleveland Browns have a lot of guys who are on the COVID list right now, so that's kind of their own disaster right now. Eric, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's kind of hard to tell. You don't know who's going to play, who's going to be out there. So if it's just based on coaching, I would go off of the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin. And, you know, you're getting arrested Ben Roethlisberger. So I think they should have enough to pull it off.
Eric?
I agree. Not just because I'm a Steelers fan from growing up, but I think what Eric said and the coaching with Mike Tomlin and all of his assistants, I think they'll have something cooked up for Baker Mayfield. Even though there's not that many fans in the stands or no fans in the stands, they still have to go up to Pittsburgh. It's still going to be cold. I know they played in Cleveland. It's cold too, but it's just a different atmosphere when you get in that city. So I would go with the Steelers. Let's say 24-10.
JD?
Yeah, I did say, man, just the COVID is decimating the team, no doubt about it. But man, I watched Tomlin in his interview, and them eyes, man, just says it all. You could just tell he means business. He's just like, listen, we're coming in, you're trying to run this thing, run the table at this moment. So I take him, man. I just got so much confidence, man. He's been there before. He knows what to expect, and I think Cleveland, man, is just kind of riding that high too. Man, we got the playoffs, so they got the monkey off the back, right? So look, hey, did a good job this year. Well done. Guys are hurt. You got a problem, and an excuse to get out of it. So next year, look forward to it. But I see, man, Pittsburgh probably beating these guys. Like you said, you don't quite know who's playing. So I'm gonna go with 21-14.
Now, is there something to the fact that, like, you know, teams always, like, when they say, oh, that team got hot at a certain moment as they got into the playoffs. For the Steelers, they were hot at the beginning of the season. They kind of cooled off, and they've kind of, I guess, so to speak, they limped into the playoffs. I mean, if you look at the last, like, a couple games they had going to the playoffs, they did not look like the same team from the beginning of the season. Now, is there something to that? I mean, does that bode well for Cleveland as far as, you know, Pittsburgh didn't look good towards the end of the season. Cleveland actually looked all right ending the season. Is there something?
I thought that even with that game, you know, they didn't have a lot of their receivers. Cleveland didn't. Pittsburgh didn't have a lot of their starters. And I thought Rudolph played well to keep them in that game. They could have pulled it off with a 2-point conversion or even a 4th down stop. And they didn't have a lot of their players. And Cleveland had their top 2 running backs who basically were running all over Pittsburgh at the time. But again, you know, a lot of players were missing. So the week off for Pittsburgh starters might be just a jump start to get them back to where they were at the beginning of the season. You know, you get to heal some of those bumps and bruises, you know, come back fresh and hopefully get things started from where you were at the beginning instead of where you were at the end. So I think it kind of helps Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think and Cleveland as a team is a young team. They need to play football all the time. They need to be back to back with their starters and having some continuity there, because yeah, that's what they need to do.
You know, I kind of look at, almost here you had Pittsburgh, which everybody was almost talking an undefeated season, right? I mean, we were talking about that at some point, like they was going to go undefeated. And sometimes when you're trying to figure it out after you get that first loss on you, it's like, okay, what did everything go wrong at? And then all of a sudden you start finding out that, shoot, it's, this guy back here has been, doing this, and this over here hasn't quite been working well. The hot tub ain't quite as hot as you thought it was. And so all these little things you start, figuring out, like, oh, okay, this is the reason these things have been happening. And plus, too, man, I'll tell you what is what carries Pittsburgh is that defense. And losing Bud Dupree, man, was huge. It was huge to that defense. And so that part of that energy was like, oh, well, shoot, Bud is gone. He was just an absolute monster on that side. And so the guys were trying to figure it out. And of course, Juju trying to figure out who he was, and he's doing too many selfies and don't let him do any interviews. Like all that just start coming into play. So it was just nitpicking all during that time, trying to figure out, get all the kinks out of what was going on. Almost look at it like our year. We was talking about going undefeated and end up 13-3, right? Because we lost one and then we just lost like two. It's like, oh my God, like what's happening? What's going on? And I see Pittsburgh kind of, going through the same, emotions. But like I said, man, I think now, like E said, having the rest that they needed, then I think they're looking to make this playoff run. No doubt.
All right. So before we get to the tweet portion, so who do you guys think we're going to play next week? Wait, just based on your predictions today and stuff. I guess what's the seed that you think we're going to play this week? I know according to Eric thinks Indianapolis is going to win, so we're going to play Indianapolis just based on the seedings.
I think Bills, definitely. I think Bills for sure.
We wouldn't play them though because of the seed.
Oh no, that's right. So we had to. So the seed would be okay. So Pittsburgh wins, right?
Yep.
And the Bills. Okay, so we So Pittsburgh, right? No, hold on.
It would either be
sorry.
Colts. It would either be Colts or Browns, or the winner of the Tennessee and Baltimore.
Tennessee, Baltimore. Okay, that's right. Jeez.
Who would you rather see, Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah,
Lamar Jackson. I think we rather go with Lamar just because we've had the success against Baltimore. We know his strengths and have an upper hand on them throughout the last few years. We got a real bit a better shot at beating them. So I don't think we have I don't want to say we don't have much of a challenge against anybody because you can lose any particular team on any given Sunday. Mm-hmm. I just rather face what we've already got the upper hand on. That's Baltimore.
I agree. You don't want that big monster running around and getting down to your safeties if we had to play the Titans. As you know, remember that cold game we played in Oakland?
Oakland?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. At the end of 2002, and they kept running split flow zone, and Crockett had to tackle Tyrone Wheatley all day.
That was hell.
There was poo on the field. Poo.
Man.
Actually, I'm gonna go opposite of these guys, man. I'd rather see Tennessee than Baltimore, to be honest with you. Really. Because I'm thinking right now, and Lamar is just looking like, okay, you keep counting me out, right? Keep counting me out. Right? Same thing. You got the upper hand, and look, Harbaugh he's a guy that I know is getting those guys ready too. Maybe what they've learned from Lamar these past couple of years, where he's been. Like, look, okay, these are things you need to do right now to win. And so it's Harbaugh was under Andy when he was up in Philly. I think for a time, so they kind of know each other a little bit. So
Harbaugh's a good coach. I just don't think he has the pieces to beat us. I mean, even Lamar's a phenomenal athlete. Take nothing from him. You got to give him credit You know, because he's shown it. But just the overall pieces, they don't have. You know, Marcus Peters isn't playing as well, and I think he's hurt too. Their defensive line isn't what it used to be. So, no, I just don't think that they have it. And right now, they're depending solely on Lamar Jackson.
Well, I mean, we could say the same thing as Derrick Henry is all Tennessee was relying on. I mean, Tannehill ain't gonna keep.
Mike Vrabel is a defensive guy, and he's got his defenses playing well. No big name player on that defense, but they play well. They come out and play hard every week. And once that big freight train gets to going, you know, that whole team is playing well.
I mean, what's to the fact that, you know, we've played Lamar 3 times since we've had Lamar versus Mahomes kind of bowls. Beating them 4 times, isn't that kind of, I mean, they say it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a row, but beating them 4 times, I think that's a tough ask. What do you guys think about that?
You keep trying it. Keep trying to grab the bull by the horns, I guess. Hey, but I mean, if you have their number, you got their number. But
that's what I'm saying. So if you beating up on somebody, you're gonna say, no, I don't want to face you this 4th round. You might knock me out. I mean, keep bringing it. If I got the upper hand on you and I know I can beat you, I don't care what extra you throw in there. Just show me what you got. Keep bringing it.
But look at the last time we played Tennessee, right? So I was at the Tennessee Chiefs game when Mahomes had came back last year, first game back after his and so down there it wasn't really, I didn't really see a whole lot. I didn't. I seen how defense played and the offense really played well and it was just kind of off. But Tennessee, I mean, seriously, if you bottle that guy up, right? And we know, you know, what's the name of Honey Badger plays down in the they call him now. What is it called now? They call him something the tenant, the rent or something like that. The landlord. Bring the landlord down in the box, okay? I think Baz got something for him, and I think that's what it's going to be the key, because if you bring everybody down and you stop that guy, and they're doing a much better job. Look, defensively, they're doing a much better job stopping the run, and guys are doing a much better job tackling it too. So I've seen that the past couple of weeks with the defense. If you bottle this guy up, man, that's it. You ain't got nothing else. We're going to rely on Tannehill? Forget it. No.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
To JD's point, just keep him on the bench. Let's sling that thing around the yard and build up a lead. Let's just keep him on the bench.
That's right.
Or keep him in pass protection.
Yeah.
And we definitely are capable of doing that. I'm sure you'd agree.
Like, where you go, one-dimensional. Make it one-dimensional. When now all of a sudden, you know, trying to play catch-up, you might as well forget it. Now, Lamar, like I said, the other week when he came out with the cape on his jersey, running out the locker room.
Game.
Yeah, hey man, that joker came out to do it, and you knew with him in there, he can make that happen. He's another guy, man, that's fine. You know, could run off, throw the football. I mean, he's got it. He's that package, man. He's just that exciting. But if you had to run the football and try to catch up, I don't see it happening. I just don't. I don't.
All right. So it seems like we'll probably play one of those 2 teams. Realistically, will probably be that game, unless we see an upset from Cleveland or Indianapolis. Either way, I think it's gonna be a fun matchup in the divisional round. All right, so now we're gonna go to our final segment, which is the Chiefs Kingdom Concern segment, where I look at some of the Chiefs Kingdom hot takes out there and get each of you guys to respond to one. Our first one, it's kind of a fun one. Our first Chiefs Kingdom Concern comes from @Taco Salazar. They tweeted, "I'm not telling you what to do at Chiefs, but the champs play pretty good when the gold end zones come out. #playoffs, #Chiefs Kingdom." Do you guys? What do you guys take on the gold end zones? Are you guys fans of that?
I can't lie. I don't know if I've seen that or remember seeing it.
That's a stat that I'm not familiar with either. Just right now, I know we've been complaining mostly about our red zone offense. So if that's the way of us getting in there, just painting goals, I mean, I'm all for it. You know, I do want to see us capitalize on a lot of those red zone moments and put more 6 points up instead of 3.
I'm with you.
Man, if there's any validity to it, yeah, bring out the gold, man. Go ahead and make that in, you know. hey, hats off to the crew, man. They do a great job out there, man. The grounds crew just got to get my hats off, man. They do a tremendous job. Great guys, too. Great group of guys. Probably the best.
Terry Lee.
Terry Lee, baby. Terry Lee.
Hey, man, y'all remember Terry used to drive that purple minivan with the gold Dayton's?
Yep.
Is he the same guy who's the head of the grounds crew now?
Yeah, he's still there. He's been there ever since me and he started.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. There's a lot of guys, man, that's been there for a long time. For a long time, man, to make it the organization run.
All the security guys are the exact same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Still won't let us in the building now.
Like, can I help you? Like, man, it's JD. Like, come on.
Here's a funny story about that when like Pioli was the GM and Todd Haley was the head coach, and Will was going in to talk to Lamont Winston or something in the building. So he walked in, and this like 23-year-old security guard was giving him crap, and Will said there was a picture of him blocking for Marcus Allen right above his head on Marcus Allen's 100th touchdown.
Those were darker times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez. An experiment that didn't work. So.
No. Still got the left tackle though. Still got the left tackle from back then.
Did Will tell him, say, hey man, hey look, hey youngster, turn around real quick. I want you to look at something.
I don't know how he reconciled it, but that was funny.
I got cleats older than you.
All right, our final Chiefs Kingdom concern comes from @HutCheese. They tweeted, Chiefs Kingdom, if you're a fan who has been cheering for Alex Smith's success since he left Kansas City, what does that support look like in the very unlikely scenario that the Washington football team makes it to the Super Bowl against Kansas City? I think this one's more about just seeing, what are your guys' thoughts on just seeing Alex Smith, kind of battle back from that injury and, win the NFC East this year and, take his team to the playoffs, just coming back from that injury. What are your guys' takes on that?
A blessing. He's been a true blessing to be back after such a traumatic, injury, and being told that he would probably never walk again, to be back out there to lead the team to where he's led it to. I was very happy when he first got out there to get that first victory, make that first pass. I think he was sacked by Aaron Donald that same game, so that was kind of a scary moment, but just to see him back and to do the things that he's done so far.
He jumped on his back.
Yeah. So that was a real scary moment for a lot of people. But he's a true Chiefs at heart. So no matter where he's at, he got his long reign there in Kansas City, and I'm just happy to see he's still in it and putting up the fight that he's fighting with.
Eric?
I think when you talk about perseverance, not just perseverance in an athletic injury setting, but in a life-threatening setting, as they didn't know if he was going to make it at a point or if they were going to have to amputate his leg. But just that perseverance from a human standpoint, a lot of people can look to, and people can relate things from football to real life, from football to real life. It really is a microcosm of both. And I think people could bottle this one up and use it as a story of inspiration for a long time.
Yeah.
JD?
Man, it's just, the grit, man, the inspiration, like that you was just talking about, man. And I'll tell you what, man, it's just exciting just watching any guy come off any type of injury and come back to play, and especially him. I seen him get flushed out of the pocket last week, and it looked like he was going to take off running, but you just did. You see, he just didn't quite have the wheels like he used to, and that's fine. But I tell you what, man, just a heartwarming story. Just to see him coming back in. My hat's off to him. But he's he's shown his heart, man. He's shown his heart, and everybody's kind of put their arms around him, and duly so. They've been going through some things over at Washington, and I think Alex Smith is kind of like that good, feel good. Besides, the coach being part of that, man. But Alex, man, is a great Chief. It had been a great Chief, and now just watching him play right now, just being out on the field, man, is a great thing. So, yeah, my hats off.
I think if we see him in the game, more power to him. That's just the continuance of an incredible story. Now we'll have to go ahead and beat him just like we would any other
like
team.
Everybody else.
Like go and win, but you wish him nothing but the best.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you were to play us in the Super Bowl, that'd be like a Disney movie.
For one, it'd be crazy just to see they're not the Redskins, but to see Washington in the Super Bowl after having a below 500 season. So
Lord,
that'd be tremendous in itself.
Or the announcers having to say Washington football team all the time.
That too.
Somebody gonna slip up. Somebody it's gonna come out.
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, they were kind of laughing at Al Michaels last week when at the end of the game where he said in the Washington football, when he's supposed to the Washington football team had won the NFC East, he said the Washington Redskins won the NFC East. So he took a moment away from what could have been.
Yeah. But you forgive me for that, man. It's new for everybody. It really is.
It is.
Take a little time. It's gonna take a little time.
That's just like for me. It took me a while to get used to the Las Vegas Raiders. I kept calling them Oakland Raiders. San Diego Chargers.
LA Chargers.
So,
right.
It just takes time, and when you've done it for so long, when you've known things for so long, that's what you're stuck with. That's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of it. And just mentioning Alex Smith and his situation, I just thought about the other. We got two of those stories that guys have been in Kansas City that have had those tremendous comeback, and at Eric Berry and the things that he went through was and to get back on the field. So it's good to see guys battling through so much and to make it back and to continue being successful.
And hopefully we'll nothing but Godspeed to the young man that was injured last week that broke his femur. Defensive back. I don't remember his name exactly. I'm sorry, but to break your femur, that's fairly significant. That's a life-threatening injury.
Yeah.
Yeah, DeAndre Baker,
Baker.
Yeah, and he was having a good game too. He had a sack, and he was in on a lot of plays last week. He was actually showing out, so that was unfortunate. But I read that this week someone was saying that a femur is actually better than what they initially thought, that he was going to tear ligaments in his leg and stuff. But I don't know. I think when I think femur, I think that's a horrible injury. So
either way, I wouldn't want to experience any of it.
Mm-mm.
Right.
Last thing on the Alex Smith portion was his wife posted on Instagram when they won the NFC East last week a picture of his brace that he had. They put it into a Lombardi trophy, so it looks like a Lombardi trophy now. It's pretty cool.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so I wish him luck against Brady and the Buccaneers. I know he played Brady a lot with us, and he had some good moments against Brady. So maybe he'll bring back some of that Chiefs magic against them this week.
They're gonna need a whole lot of it this week.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Well, that does it for our 2021 premiere. We'll see you next week where we discuss the playoff matchups and discuss the Chiefs' divisional round opponent. If anyone in Chiefs Kingdom has any Chief concerns for these guys, please tweet at us at @ConcernsChief, and please subscribe and follow Chief Concerns on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Eric, it was great having you on, man. It was an honor to talk to you and get to meet you today.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Anytime, man. We'd like to get you back on if you want to come back on, man.
All right. Just let me know.
Will do.
Hicksy, man, love you, brother, man. Good seeing you, man.